Okay, we're just about to get started. Can we just have your attention? I'd like to introduce Terry Nickel, the Associate Vice President of IT Services at the University of New Brunswick. And he's going to give a talk to us entitled Delivering a Practical Mobile Strategy. Start here and get it done, but just before we get started, I just wanted to mention that this morning at the registration desk, the very first device we had up and running to handle registration was an Apple iPad.
Cool. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me at the back there? All right. All right. Well, thank you very much for dropping by this particular session this afternoon. I hope I'm going to give you some useful information that you can rush home and apply immediately, or you can laugh at what I'm talking about because you've already done it and you've done it way better. If that's the case, let's talk after, and you can point me to point out the error of my ways. I just wanted to make an observation though before starting into the presentation. I was just in between sessions here, just before this one is beginning. I went over to the restroom, the washroom there, to do what I have to do. And standing there, and the guy next to me was standing there, doing his thing. And I wasn't watching or nothing, but he was using his iPhone. At the same time, and we're both doing our business. And I thought, wow, I've not attempted that, and I don't think it's something that I'm really tempted to do, but that's really kind of an indicator, isn't it, of how people are so attached to these bloody things. Isn't that amazing? So anyway, I thought that was interesting and appropriate for mildly appropriate for an introduction to a session like this. So anyway, I'm making the bold assumption that many of you have devices in your hot hand right this minute. Am I correct? So instead of saying get rid of them, put them away, turn them off, I'm going to do a poll everywhere poll. So what I want to know first, and I want you to answer, you all know how to do this, right? You've seen this. This is not by any means new stuff, right? So all you do, pick up your device, put in that code, or you could use Twitter or whatever you want, Facebook, I think you can even do, and then put in your response to that question. Does your institution have a mobile or mobility strategy? Do it now. You should see results anytime now. Wow. All right, one of you has been successful. 2, 3, come on. Tap in there, come on, let's go. Am I moving around too much? Come on, let's go. I'll give you a minute. I was looking at some EDUCAUSE data yesterday, actually, and in one of their latest research reports, they're reporting that 70% of institutions, that's higher ed institutions in the US at least, as far as I know, that's who they've studied for this particular purpose, is 70% have a mobility strategy. And I thought, oh, that's great, because when I started thinking about this and actually proposed this, it was not 70%. It was more like about 50%. And so I thought, okay, well, I can add some value here by letting you people know how we've done it, or come up with a strategy anyway at UMB. One thing I want to, I'll still give you a couple of seconds to put in your response to this question. So another prefatory remark is that with all due respect to all of the developers and the people who are keen to work in this area, an app is not a strategy. Sorry, it's not. It is a tool and it's a tactic, but it's not a strategy. I'm going to go through, at least according to me, so please take it with a grain of salt. So what does this tell us? We're kind of all over the place. We have 27 of you have responded to this. And so this is kind of what I was expecting, and maybe it's reflective of the Canadian context. Could be. Anyway, so we'll move on. In defining the mobility strategy for UNB, I had to do the usual things that you do when you come up with a strategy, right? So what do? Interact with me, folks. What do you do when you come up with a strategy? What's the first thing you do? Come on, you're all, and many of you here, I recognize you. I've seen you before. I've worked with you. You know what a strategy is. Tell me. Come on. Middle afternoon. Oh my God. All right. Vision?
Vision for the strategy.
Okay. What's that? Present what? Well, you kind of have to, there's earlier steps, maybe. So that's what I'm going to kind of go through the whole gamut of how we at least got there. And if if this resonates with you, then great. Then I will have achieved my objective. So we had a problem. No strategy. No really inkling of what we are going to do as an institution, or even how to approach the problem. The problem's big. I think you can all appreciate that, so I'm not going to go over all of the issues involved. So, but mobility means that people are bringing these devices, they expect us to support them, they can be anything and everything, and the problem is growing. So maybe that sums it up. So what is UNB going to do about this whole thing? Well, first of all, we decided, and I'm going to describe who that is in a minute, decided that what we have to do is to, well, as I've written here, define and articulate. So define, first of all, define the problem, and then articulate, write out, specify, discuss, all that kind of stuff, what a strategy should be for us. How many of you have been, or maybe are in, because in that survey showed that some of you are in, the react and hope for the best mode? Maybe a few of us. So that's kind of not a great place to be, because we know that the issues are omnipresent and are increasing. However, at the same time, we're getting some pressure to be completely open, to be welcoming of these things. We want them to come in. We want people to use these devices. We want them to have a good experience at our institution, and that means including these things. Now, I'm really talking about, obviously, the scope of what we decided to tackle here. So the part that we did not and have not yet included is because we have no contextual framework here. We have no foundation layer upon which to build apps or anything else. We decided to stay away from the classroom and pedagogical use of mobile tools. So if you're here for that part, come back next year, and we might have an answer. But there's other presentations I know at this conference that address that specific aspect of the whole issue. So there was a team formed, as is the best practice in institutions of our type. You have to have a committee, right? And you got to have a team. Now, I'm lucky in this team that it's a very active and hands-on doing team, not a committee that sits and deliberates and strategizes kind of team. So it's me, and I have UNB has two main campuses, one in Fredericton, one in St. John, and my counterpart in St. John participated in this. We have a security and web strategist. Is he in the room? Oh, we're not just found something better to do. A user interface design person, desktop computing, which you would expect. Communications manager, ITS has a communications person. All she does is translate what we do into English and send that out to our users. And then the university has a privacy and right to information person who is also involved in helping us articulate what we need, what the tools and the things that we have to consider. So someone said vision. Of course we have a vision. What strategy could not have a vision? We have to have a vision. We have to know what the direction is. We have to know what we want, right? And so, of course, it's a proven methodology, and so that's what we decided we had to do too, and we did. So this is our carefully crafted vision statement. It is a bit long as far as vision statements go, but we really are trying to be as comprehensive, but also at the same time to give ourselves as much flexibility as we possibly can in the, obviously knowing that we're going to have to actually do something about this to give ourselves some flexibility in the specifics of the initiatives that we finally undertake. So it gives us some good, fair bit of latitude there. Any comments or questions about that? Very straightforward stuff, I think. All right. Okay, so what I hope I bring to my position, my perspective is strongly entrenched in, let's be practical about this, in whatever it is that we're doing. When I ask people to do creative things and to think of plans that are going to advance the mission and vision of the entire unit, I really expect them to come up with practical ways to do that. And this particular strategy is no exception whatsoever. So I looked around, and because starting from zero, we really had to look for a set of tools or a set of guiding overarching elements that are going to help us bring this whole thing along. They have to be practical and they have to be doable. So that's where I hit upon this company called Float Learning, and they published 6 of these papers, the 6 Ps of mobile strategy, and they are laid out right there. And I thought, rather than reinvent all this stuff myself or our group, I think what we will do is adopt and adapt that particular framework or set of tools and take what we can from that, and that's what we've done. So we already have a ready-made set of pretty good, comprehensive tools that we're going to need to consider and to work on throughout this whole process. So the first one, obviously, platform. So what are we actually going to be working with here? So we've got the typical, usual suspects. So we've got iOS and Android, and now increasingly, at least on our campus, Windows. How many of you are actually even thinking about or considering BlackBerry anymore? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's still a few. Our own internal studies have shown that there are still a lot of BlackBerry users among students, surprisingly. So I think the last time that we did a check of people who are accessing our systems was that about 27% actually were using BlackBerry. So it's not counted out yet, but we are not actually developing or working towards really supporting that particular group, because we do observe that the use is declining, continue to decline, while the others all go up. So the next area is procurement, but that's a very broad, sweeping set of tools here. So procurement meaning and standards in the sense it's used here means that we need to have some procurement standards. Right now at UMB, shortly. It doesn't happen as much now, but since we have actually applied some standards, But it was the case that people could buy whatever they want, people meaning staff and faculty, and expect it to be supported. And rightfully so, because they were allowed through our processes and accounting and so forth to actually buy whatever they wish and to come to campus and expect it to work. So now we're having to streamline that, put a little bit of constraints around that and get some things understood that we have to be able to cope with. So provisioning these things, another area that we have to worry about. MDM, what's that? What's that? Okay. So there's a whole area of policy that has to be understood that, I mean, these things actually really run counter to policy, don't they? And a lot of the time, because they're so easy and flexible to use. So they might run afoul, and they certainly do run afoul, of certain information policies, data security, and so forth. So all of these things have to be considered. There's publishing. And publishing what, you might ask? What's MAM? I'm asking because I forget, actually. Administrative. So mobile administration management. So there are tools that we might decide to adapt and adopt that will apply to our environment. There's lots of content. We've got lots of web content that is usable on the device format. And then there's apps. We publish lots of apps. And then finally, procedures, how to actually do stuff. And this is probably the most important one. So being a good strategic group, we wisely, I think, decided to directly align our strategy with that of the university. And two of the key themes in the university strategy are here. And so we've decided, and we decided that our strategic objectives and initiatives had to be directly aligned with that. And the two prominent among them are provide an exceptional and transformative student experience and build a better university. So those two giving us our key areas that we're shooting for here. So I'm going to ask you to take a sec. I'll catch your breath. You take this poll. This is asking you either if you don't know, guess what the increase in mobile use is on your campus. And then when we're done that, I'll tell you what ours is. It's not at the first level there. Go ahead. Anything surprising? Shocking? It's just a fact of life, right? Wait for a few more. Just recently, we did our own year-over-year check of increase in mobile use, and the UNB rate is 110%. Just is. So we've got here, clearly we've got some people who are facing even more challenges than that. Some a bit less, lots kind of in that grouping of, it's substantial, isn't it? So it's a problem. We have to deal with it. There is no choice. And so coming up with the strategy that's going to work with you, for you, I think is increasingly important. So I'm going to move on. Thank you very much. All right. The group that I worked with decided that we would come up with 7 areas in which we wanted to put the emphasis in our foundational strategy. Because that's what this is. And we have to be realistic about this. This isn't the strategy actually for 5 years. I've heard that, you know, you have to, like, strategy is usually for long term. We don't have that kind of time scale here. What we have is like 1 year in order to do some things and hopefully to get it right. And then we can build on that. But as the future arrives and more change and more activity, more devices are inflicted on us, we have to be able to respond to them. So really, a lot of these 7 are foundational and will really set us up so that we can really do some of the really nifty things that we know that we're going to be expected to do. I heard a presentation by this chap over here this morning about the fantastic things they're doing at Windsor with their specific app. I want that so badly, but I don't really have a good context in which that can actually happen effectively. So that's what this is for. So our very first one, kind of the strategic objective, is to support technologies that students use and want. Okay, so we just went through this exercise. We know that they're bringing these devices. However, we're committed to do is to evaluate all new applications or even current applications that we're upgrading or have to be working with. And we want to make sure that they're all have some kind of consideration in the mobile environment. And so we're looking at everything. Is this applicable to the mobile environment? We are heavily moving into automating our card system. And I won't even entertain adding any features or functionality to that system if it can't be usable through a mobile device. It's just not on. We're not going to do that. We have, just because of the way that some systems are and don't lend themselves yet to this kind of environment, we've been a little bit limited, but as soon as those barriers are taken away, we'll be past them. So we won't be doing a web version of everything for very long. However, speaking of web, we know that we can make our websites a heck of a lot better than they currently are for our mobile users. So I'm sure a lot of you are already well down the path of responsive web design. Show of hands, yes. Responsive web design. And the reason that we're doing that is because it enables web pages to be usable on the platform that the person is working with. And so that could be a little device, could be a pad, could be whatever. And it works with all platforms, iOS, Windows, Android, and so forth. And that's one of the main attractions about it, of course, is that we don't have to invest in a separate app for each platform. So I know you know the benefits there. So that's one thing that we can do to make life easier and better for our users. But it doesn't answer all the questions about how to get specific resources and tools to those users who prefer to use that platform. So in order to support this particular initiative, we are also doing a very thorough analysis of what our users actually want and need. So that's so within the first year, that's one of the things that we will be very carefully working towards. So I put down at the bottom there which tools this applies to. Do you recall the 6 Ps, right? Do you remember what they are? There is a test. Huh? Is what? platforms, procurement, provisioning, policy, publishing, and procedures. And one of the reasons I find this, after you memorize these, what they actually are, it actually kind of fits together, and it's kind of a mnemonic, right? It's easy to remember this stuff. And so that's why, one of the reasons anyway, I think this is an effective methodology and tool set. So P1, which was, I just showed you platforms, right? So this initiative is applicable to that tool set we were going to utilize to help us to accomplish it. And P5 was whatever it was. Oh, we've got some people who can actually remember this stuff. Awesome. Okay, so that was number 1. So I got 7. So count down. We already know, we don't even have to do a needs analysis to know that our users, and particularly students, want access to data that sometimes isn't that easy to get at, certainly not via a web channel. But we know they want things like their grades and other things that are like, should be easily and conveniently available. And that actually is not really simple to do, we have found. But we want to be able to do that. That's why we have to consider all of our enterprise applications, for example, in the context of mobility, but also incorporate new tools, new apps, services, and so forth that will actually get that to those users much more easily. So that's one of the things that we're committed to doing. Now, all of this has a very, very complex and serious security aura around it, and that's something that we've taken very, very seriously, because we have heard lots and lots of stories, as I'm sure you've read about, and perhaps have experienced, as UNB has experienced, some very unfortunate data breaches that have arisen, and I won't say out of carelessness, but perhaps out of not knowing quite enough about all the different environments that we're dealing with, including the mobile channel. So anyway, we have in indeed it's ongoing, reviewing all of our major applications to identify their security requirements in the mobility context. I mean, we look after security from many, many different angles, but we're specifically looking at the issues around providing access via the mobility route. So again, the tools that are applicable here, I've listed here. P3, procurement, I think, and P4 is policy. We've decided that we really need to deliver more and more services and resources. That's a no-brainer, but it's also something that we're just really starting on. So anyway, we're looking at everything. So any new purchases are evaluated in this context as well. Is this going to be usable, or does it contribute to our overall strategy of mobile use? So that's, and all projects, of course, that we're implementing services and systems are evaluated in the same light. Not everything is applicable here, but most things are. I already mentioned the card system. We actually selected it and then put it through this process. We use a Blackboard Transact system, and one of the reasons that we selected it was its potential for delivery via the mobile platform. So we are already almost ready to implement an app that will allow users to look up their account balances and add funds to their spending accounts. So just that kind of thing alone is really, really convenient, and that's exactly the kind of direction that we want to go in. So what's our commitment here? Well, I'm pushing for 2 in the web or app access, and both I'm actually pushing for app. But both of them are actually off-the-shelf vendor produced, so that it doesn't require a whole bunch of modification or customization. So we want to act quickly. I should mention, by the way, that it's not that UNB has nothing that's usable in the mobile environment. Our libraries for years have been producing very mobile-friendly database access systems and so forth. But the university as a whole really has not done anything at the enterprise level. So that's what we're targeting. I won't bother going through the tools, but you get the idea. Now that was really targeting the student and trying to provide them with that transformational and an excellent experience. Now we move on a little bit to actually building a better university. So the next few objectives are really directed at that. So we really do want to encourage the use of new technology among staff and faculty. We don't really have to encourage it among students very much because they just bring it, expect it to work, and that's it. So I'm getting some weird feedback. Is there a Twitter channel going back there? Back channel? This guy's nuts. That was an interesting phone ring. Anyway, so we want to remove as many barriers as we possibly can so we get as many people who can actually access these systems with whatever devices. So at UNB, what that translates into is ripping and replacing our entire wireless infrastructure, which is underway right now and is, I'm happy to report, I don't know, 40, 50% completed. It's a direct replacement with much higher bandwidth and capacity systems, and it's going really, really well. And that's one of those foundation pieces that we really have to, that we're really building this strategy on, that really has to be there. So if you're contemplating putting together a strategy, you really have to consider, are people actually going to be able to access all this stuff? So that's what this is directed to. Next we have, well, we have got to have some kind of policies. We've got to be able to help our users to navigate what they can, should, must be doing and observing as they go through using these devices, and we have to help them along. So we do have an acceptable use policy, which was had a major upgrade, major update over the last couple of years. I don't know about your institution, but at mine, getting official policy approved is a long and tortuous process. But we've done it, and we've got a really, really solid and excellent policy that now we can start to expand, use examples from the mobile world and so forth. So a lot of work's gone into that. It directly contributes to our to the whole mobility strategy. So that is directly the tool there is directly that's P4 is policy. Provide technical support. Well, this is a biggie. It's kind of got a little tiny frame around it, but it is a huge issue. The last 2 times that I personally have received a new wireless device at UNB, it has been plunked on my desk, and the deliverer walked away, and I was left to my own devices. Now, I have to confess, I'm not a profoundly deep geek. So just simply coping with, here, turn it on, you're on your own, is a problem to me. And I can't actually imagine what's going on with our poor hapless, well, I can't imagine because they tell me, our poor hapless users out in the departments and faculties. Anyway, so to deal with that specifically, we're going to address that. We're going to change that by making sure that people actually acquire these things properly, so they know why they want them, what they're useful for, how to get them easily, and then to help them set them up, configure them, and use them. So we're actually specifically, the center that I refer to here, Mobility Resource Center, has been built. I need a person, though, to lead it. So this is a shameless plug. I have a position open for a enterprise strategist. This is a great position, by the way, for enterprise strategist for mobility and wireless at UNB, Fredericton. Great city, by the way. Just saying. So that's for support. And then finally, we need to protect university assets. There's a lot of data floating out there. We don't want those awful horror stories to come and haunt UNB that have haunted other organizations. So we've implemented a online IT security course. It's a helpful, but only about 500 people have actually taken it so far. We want to drive that out further. We need to define specific standards, expectations, and develop the tools that will enforce, but also help people to cope with that. As you might have expected, I'm going to ask for a final poll. So I'm asking you about your mobility challenges. So please, you know how it works by now. Text to code to that number. So I've put in a few choices there. No strategy at all. Insufficient tools. I think that's one of our major problems. Staffing, how do you resource the bloody thing properly? You don't have any problems. Well, that's great. I'd love to see who, come on, somebody. And then the final is let's talk, which would be leading into the next thing, which would be, are there any questions? Nobody's asked that. Nobody's picking, you don't have any challenges. I did suspect that, but.
I see vendors talk about how they have something to manage mobile devices, and I'm a little confused because I don't see any way that you can get management software onto my personal device. So maybe you can give us an insight into what does it really mean when you talk about managing mobile devices? We actually do intend to manage them to the extent possible. So particularly in staff and faculty devices in which we can exert at least a small amount of control, we can actually remote wipe and things like that. And we do have tools now increasingly, and we've got vendors here that will sell you products that will help you with this, or at least they will claim they will, to actually help manage these devices. And when things get really bad, to take control and to assert control. In the university environment, that of course is extremely difficult, politically sensitive, all kinds of different things. And that's just with the devices we actually control and own, and that's a lot. But the BYOD, and then increasingly BYOE, what is that? Exactly. Bring your own everything. Not just bring your own device, bring your own everything. So someone conceivably could come up and set up their own office, their own stuff, everything, printing, you name it, and not be bothered with IT at all. And we have to worry about all the problems around that. That's a problem. So I've put in a few resources there. You can certainly contact me about this. I'm not the one who's going to be leading execution of this strategy, but as I say, I have an opening. But even though it slows us down a bit, but it's not stopping us. And a lot of these projects and initiatives we're well down the path because we can't stay still. I can't just put everything on hold and wait till the new guy or woman shows up. We have to keep going. So this is the UNB approach to this whole area, and I hope it's been informative for you. Thanks a lot.
I'd like to thank Terry for giving his presentation, and it's certainly a topic we're going to hear a lot more about in the future.